I'm Aaron Dix. I'm the Executive Director for Prisma Health Ambulance Service. We cover the Midlands and the Upstate. Within Prisma Health Ambulance Service, we have over 40 ambulances, but out of those 40 ambulances, only 2 of them are specialty care. The one in the Midlands has 188,000 miles on it and is in dire need of replacement. That is what leads to this ask. When one of these vehicles goes down, we don't have another solution to move twins other than using multiple ambulances. So it's important that we have a dedicated pediatric truck that can operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've affectionately called this the baby beast, and it just goes to the kind of the joke that we use the largest ambulance to transport our smallest patients. But it really comes down to just providing the best, absolute safest environment for our most vulnerable patients. And this size ambulance, with all of its equipment and all of its safety features, provides that environment for both our team and our patients. In order to transport 2 neonates, you need to be able to fit 2 isolettes in the back of an ambulance. That requires a true medium-duty chassis, which just the chassis itself can cost over $100,000, not including the box of the ambulance that it goes on. The other challenge is not only the size of the back of the ambulance to fit 2 isolettes, it's the amount of people that are required to treat twins, especially if they're critically injured. So the chassis of the ambulance has to be large enough to support both the weight of 2 isolettes, but also 4 to 5 team members to care for those patients. Most people, when they see an ambulance, they think of an ambulance driver and they're going from point A to point V. But what we provide is a lot more. When the NICU and the PICU team arrive, it's staffed by an EMT, a nurse, and a respiratory therapist. And they're able to provide, with input and direction from the receiving pediatric intensivist, they're able to provide life-saving and stabilizing care at the point of where they pick up the child and en route to the hospital.
Hey, I'm Michael Duckworth. I'm a respiratory therapist on the critical care transport team.
My name is Karen Warren. I'm also a part of the transport team. I am a nurse. I have been at Prisma for 15 years and on the transport team for the last 8. I think our work is impactful because it's different than a lot of other ambulance services. We do treat and stabilize on the scene. It's actually like the ICU coming to the patient versus us waiting to bring the patient to the hospital. We carry the same equipment that is available in the ICUs, the PICU and the NICU. We have a cooling blanket that we use for HIE, and those patients are time sensitive, has to be initiated within the first 6 hours of life. We have Billy lights for phototherapy for those patients. For the RTs, we carry a jet oscillator, which is a piece of equipment that most other people do not have. You definitely would never see that on an ambulance, but is available in our NICU, so we can go ahead and start that treatment early for those patients that have the tiniest lungs and the sickest lungs.
So as you can see, the isolette, it's more than just a warm box to provide safe transport. There's IV pumps, there's a ventilator, there's a cardiac monitor. So during the entire trip and the time that the team is with the child at the referring facility, they're providing extraordinary care.
Currently, with the ambulance that we have, we are only able to put 1 isolette at a time in there, or a stretcher if it's a pediatric patient. So we do a lot of switching back and forth, and that ends up being a time delay for our patients. We also end up moving equipment back and forth, which also runs the risk of us leaving something behind that we would need. We have a lot of equipment stacked up in our ambulance. The services that we provide require additional equipment, and unfortunately a lot of that equipment is big and bulky and takes up room.
What we want to do is make sure that the care that they are providing is seamless, because as that patient arrives at Richland, we want to make sure that the care that was done at the facility and en route is just another continuum as they get here, that their care just continues. It's a lot more than just an ambulance. It's staffed by 3 incredible providers, and they're in constant communication with the pediatric residents, attendings, and intensivists to make sure that they're getting the absolute best care possible. So this is a $425,000 project. It is the most expensive ambulance that we purchase, and it's that amount of money for a variety of reasons. One being, in order to transport 2 isolettes and the necessary team, you need a true medium-duty chassis. You cannot put this on a standard F450, F550 Chevy chassis that we're all used to seeing ambulances on. This has to go onto a true medium duty chassis. That in itself is over $100,000, just the chassis. There's additional safety features that are built in to the back of the ambulance to support the treatment of patients that are in an isolette or really young. One of those being that the floor has to be able to support the weight of the isolette. We have to have numerous gases that take up a significant amount of room on the truck. You don't just have oxygen, but you have medical air. And then you have to have redundant power sources as well. So not only does the ambulance have a heavy-duty inverter that allows us to run the pumps and the ventilator and the isolette on the way, but there's also a generator and a fail system that's built into the truck. So if the truck was to experience mechanical failure, then the generator would kick on and power all the electronics in the vehicle. The other main safety feature is the ability for the isolette to be automatically loaded into the ambulance and secured to the floor. So typically the most dangerous place to be in an ambulance is in the back during an accident. And until recently, the safest way of restraining the patients in the back still allowed the stretcher to separate from the ambulance during a high-speed impact. So this ambulance is rated with the appropriate equipment that if the ambulance was to roll, the isolette and the stretcher stay secured at the back of the ambulance and do not come loose. So the combination of the weight of the chassis, the size of the box, the amount of medical gas that it has to hold, and the specialty restraint system to ensure that the isolette stays attached to the ambulance all increases the cost of the ambulance. But it really comes down to just providing the best, absolute safest environment for our most vulnerable patients. And this size ambulance, with all of its equipment and all of its safety features, provides that environment for both our team and our patients.